topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Texas. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where for the last 16 years, we have brought you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Hey, our show over the next 25 minutes, this is an incredible story, this show. We do 25 shows a month. This show has grown in audience size faster than any show we've ever had. In fact, the show we just did before yours is actually our number 2 show. And that's only because they do 2 shows a month for the last 8 years. The show before that, our number 1 show, is an hour show 3 times, and they've been with us for 12 years. So for this show, who's been with us a little over a year, to have grown to our 3rd highest, your letters, I cannot thank you enough, because we understand you take time out of your day to write us with questions. It makes this show so easy to do. And what's really cool about this show, people love attorney Lance Drury. Good morning, attorney.
Hey. Hopefully I can keep my voice. I'll have to drink more water.
That's fine. Is it still real cold there in the St. Louis area?
Well, it's not bad, and my legal assistant just told me it's going to get up to 73 degrees Wednesday. So the rest of February looks good. We're probably going to pay for this, though, in March. We usually do.
Well, Lance, I got to tell you, looking at the numbers, we just keep growing and growing your show. So tell people about the law firm of Lance Drury.
Well, Steve, we got 5 offices. St. Genevieve, Missouri. It's a small town. I was born and raised here. It's 4,400 people. I'm 50 minutes from St. Louis. I was in my St. Louis office Saturday. We have offices in Nashville, Tennessee, San Antonio, Texas, and now Houston, Texas. So we keep growing the business. I'm 72, but we keep growing the business, and I think we are going to keep growing the business because things are just booming. Things were a little slow in November and December because the government had shut down, and, no nasty letters were going out, and that's when people call me. Last summer, we had record revenue months, which is really different because normally it slows down in the summer, but people were getting those nasty letters. So business was booming in the summer, which is highly unusual. It's all psychological, but people think Uncle Sam's more likely to come after them during tax season. That's not true, but that's the psychology of it. But Uncle Sam will come after your money anytime, as long as the government's not shut down.
Lance, I got to tell you, the 2 biggest questions since we last spoke have been people trying to get a hold of the IRS, and we keep writing them and giving them your name and number. Stop trying to do this yourself. And I think, from what I understand, there's been a lot of layoffs at the IRS.
Well, there were layoffs during the shutdown. Right now, they're back. But, some of those people didn't come back because of job security. They think, well, we don't know when the government's going to shut down again. They were lucky that they're not shut down this time, or it would have caused big problems. I anticipate we're going to have problems in the airports I need to get to San Antonio, but I'm worried about the flights.
Exactly. With
And so
TSA.
here's the other problem. It's not just now. They haven't been staffed properly for some time, the IRS. So people hire me just because they think they can do this on their own. They'll spend 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours trying to get through to the IRS, and they can't get through. And if they do, guess what? They get disconnected. And the problem is people are not going to know this. This is why they need professional help. But those people in the automated collection system, which is the number most people call, that's where the vast majority of cases are, they're not properly trained. You've got people there who don't know what they're talking about because they don't get enough training, and they're not staffed right. Now, we know that because this is all we do. We spend $50 to $100 or more a year just keeping up on this stuff. But the average person isn't going to know whether they're telling them the right thing or the wrong thing. So you can get a lot of bad advice from those people there. And guess what? You call back and somebody else tells you something entirely different. So it's just not the kind of minefield you want to try to get through by yourself.
You know, if you own a business, Lance, and you've got a problem with the IRS and you're on hold for an hour, 2 or 3 hours, that takes away from your business. If they sign with you, they don't have to talk to the IRS anymore.
In fact, we make it a condition that they not talk to the IRS, because what you say to the IRS, they can hold against you. They can't do that with your attorney. And the other thing is, we don't know what's going on then if they call the IRS themselves. I just had a guy, he's hiring me, but he already called the IRS. Now he helped save himself in the short run, but he just put himself on their radar. I mean,
Yes.
That's the problem. We don't call them unless there's already a deadline in place or we're ready to get an agreement with them, because you're just showing up when you don't have to all the time. You got to remember, they're a bureaucracy. Things fall through the cracks. You know, I know people that haven't filed in 20 years and never get a notice from the IRS. Now, I can't tell them not to file their return because it's a crime not to file their tax return. But, you know, when you call them up, boy, you're just front and center before the IRS firing squad then.
We just got a text from Raymond in Austin. He said, I'm listening to you talk about red flags. Can you give us any advice that we don't get on the IRS's red flags?
Well, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but you don't want to call them up because you just put yourself on their radar unless there's already a deadline in place. And some people will get those nasty letters. And, you know, here's the other thing. Some of those letters act like they're going to wipe you out. But they can't do it. They can't do it. They're just trying to scare you. And the reason they can't do it is there's a whole process, and they have to go through a sequence of letters, and they don't give you your appeal rights until they get to the last letter. So they can't levy you before that last letter. But when you get that last letter, and if you do nothing after 30 days, they can wipe out your bank account, take 90% of your take-home pay. So that's the one letter you don't want to ignore. But there's those other letters, and what happens is people get them. They don't do anything. They think, oh, they're not going to do anything to me. So when that last letter comes, people think, well, I'm safe. They're just bluffing. And then they take every dime out of their bank account and up to 90% of their take-home pay. So, you know, then you can't pay the bills.
Cecil in San Marcos wants to know, I just doubled my annual income. Is that going to put me on the IRS's radar?
Well, if you have an existing agreement with the IRS and it's a partial pay installment agreement, which means you're not going to pay it all back because you proved to the IRS that you didn't have the ability to pay it all back, they could require you, they could take you out of your agreement, require you to submit financials, and get you set up on a new agreement. because now you have the ability to pay them more money
Mm.
because now you've doubled your income. So that does happen when you have a partial pay installment agreement already set up, or if you're in uncollectible status. They could take you out of uncollectible status as well if they see that now you're making a lot of money. But they don't have forever to collect the tax. So, a lot of times when people come to us, we know exactly when the clock's going to fall off that they can no longer collect against an individual. So sometimes we can do things that help people get through that. And then after the clock runs out on collections, you don't have to worry about what your income is, because they can no longer collect any monies from you.
Lance, I want to warn people. There are so many national commercials on TV, which they make some very big promises. And I do a lot of due diligence. I read a lot, and you've got such a good rating with Google, but I read some of these people's letters to Google, how they paid this company a lot of money, and then it took them months and months just to hear back from them. You don't have that with your firm. And I want people just to be careful with these national commercials, because first of all, they're very misleading. You talk to an intake person, and it's such a huge difference between them and Lance Drury's firm.
Yeah, and we tell everybody in the initial consultation, I tell them, here's our track record. 85 to 90% of our clients never pay back the full amount. 10 to 15% never pay a dime. They're mostly people on a fixed income, but it's all based on your ability to pay it back. If there's money left over at the end of the month, Uncle Sam wants it. Now, we can perhaps give people advice on how to structure their assets, their expenses, so they get a better deal out of Uncle Sam. For instance, if you're married, you have one car payment, go out and get a second car payment. You want a new car, you want to pay Uncle Sam. So that's one of the things that we can do. That's a small thing. But yeah, we tell people, obviously the less money you owe to Uncle Sam, the most likely they are to collect all of it. And the more money you make, you're more likely. We had a guy once, he owed $500,000, and he paid me a lot of money, and we got involved in the case, and I saw, well, he was making $500,000 a year. So I figured he was going to be a full pay. No, the clock ran out on over $200,000 in collections. Wow. And then they finally caught up with him. So he's still going to pay $300,000, but he's got the ability to do it. And for what he paid me, he made more than 4 times his money by investing in my services. So yeah, I tell everybody, you just don't pay me the big bucks. I wave a magic wand and it goes away tomorrow. We're in this together. It's a collaborative effort. I have certain responsibilities to my clients, and those clients have certain responsibilities to themselves, namely getting their returns prepared and filed and getting us the financial information we need. If they don't do that, we can't help them out. And obviously, if you make a lot of money, you don't have a lot of expenses, you're going to end up paying it all back. But we're very upfront about that. And we tell them what our percentages are, but you have to realize there's no cookie cutter approach here, Steve. Right. Every client's financial situation is different. Every resolution is custom made to that client. So, people ask me from time to time, well, I owe $70,000. What's your record on that? Well, I don't know that number, because one guy could pay it all. The next guy could be paying zero. And it's not based on what you owe. It's based on your ability to pay it back. So the number you owe is not material. I wish it was. Be a lot more work if I could settle for 10 cents on a dollar. I could be Monty Hall and call them up and say, let's make a deal, Steve. It'd be a lot easier. But that's not how it works. That's not how the game's played. It's a lot of work for the taxpayer. It's a lot of work for my firm, but that's what you got to do if you want to get a deal out of Uncle Sam.
I am so glad that you said that, Lance, because a lot of those national commercials, They'll go, hey, we had a client that owed $5 million and we got him off for $100. I mean, if you think about that, and I'm not saying that's never, ever happened before, but
it could happen, but it's because it's not based on what you owe. It's based on, I got a guy, he owed over $2 million to the IRS and he never paid a dime back. But what happened was he owned a bunch of McDonald's franchises, sold them. I think his accountant made some mistakes that got him the liability. And then he gambled it all away on the boat. So he didn't pay a dime back because he didn't have any assets. He didn't have any income. But it happens. But, you know, I tell people when you're in your worst financial shape, that's the best time to negotiate with Uncle Sam, because I'm going to keep saying it. It's all based on your ability to pay it back. And you know, sometimes you get people that are really, they don't understand why Uncle Sam doesn't want them to eat out every night. They go, I got my kids in this sport, that sport. Well, again, that's not an allowable expense. When you owe the government money, you're going to spend thousands of dollars a month so your kid can compete in sports. And then because you're on a tough timeline, you got to eat at McDonald's or Burger King or whatever every night because you're in a rush. Uncle Sam's not going to give you the cost of all those meals. And then, you know, I had a doctor once. He had a contract for sale on a $750,000 home, and he couldn't understand why that was a problem. So, you know, gambling is a frequent one. It's hard to get a deal. You've got to borrow yourself from the boats and come clean for a while, because you're not going to get a deal when you're gambling all your money away, because Uncle Sam figures, you know, you can pay me. You're gambling it away. You've got the means to do that. So you got to clean up your client's act sometimes before they can even get a resolution with Uncle Sam.
Exactly. Here's from Greg in San Antonio. He said, I just found your show last month and it's godsend. I was looking forward to watching more of your shows. I want to know, if I hire you, do you handle all communications with the IRS and the Department of Revenue?
Yes, but in Texas, you don't have to worry about the Department of Revenue because there's no state income tax. Now, not I personally, but I have 2 lawyers in San Antonio, and we insist on handling every single communication so we know exactly what's going on. Because if the client calls and, you know, what will happen is the client will say, well, I told them this, and the IRS will say, no, they told me this. And then you can't argue with them because you're not privy to that conversation. So we don't want our clients getting anywhere close to the IRS.
Okay. Charles in Austin, he wants to know, I have your phone number and I'm finally going to pick up the phone next week. What are your responsibilities during the process?
Well, our responsibility is to handle all of the communications with the IRS, and we have a 3-pronged strategy that we perform. Number 1, we're saving your income and your assets from seizure by the government. We need to be there to protect your income and your assets. Number 2, we want to make sure you're compliant moving forward, because that's a condition of any agreement. If you get an agreement with the IRS, the primary condition is that you're not only paying on that agreement, but you're 100% compliant moving forward, which means you have to file on time and pay on time in the future. And number 3, to get you the best deal possible on the back taxes. So those are the 3 things that we're responsible for when you hire our firm. We also try to stay in touch with you at least on a monthly basis, even if there's nothing going on with the IRS. And I got to tell you, it's taken a lot more time to get a resolution nowadays because the IRS is so screwed up. The only thing is screwed up as the IRS is the Postal Service, Steve. And so we're spending as much time, if not more, for the same amount of money that we did a few years ago. But ever since the pandemic, they've never gotten back to where they were before. And again, part of the problem is they're not properly funded. A lot of people get upset they're glad they're not funded because then they don't have the resources to go after everybody. But once you're on their radar, the service is pathetic. And that's just the new reality. And so if you do have an IRS problem, it's not going to get solved within 48 hours. I can tell you that.
This is from Raleigh in New Brunswick. He said, I have watched several podcasts on tax relief. I must tell you, yours is the best one out there. Thank you for that. He said, when it comes to garnishing wages, how does the IRS figure what percent they garnish?
Well, one of the things is when you get your garnish, your wages garnished, it goes to your payroll department, human resources department. There'll be a sheet. It's an exemption sheet. So you can put down who all of your dependents are, and then they won't take up to 90% of your take-home pay. But even if they take 50%, how are you going to pay the bills if you got 2 kids? How are you going to feed everybody? How are you going to keep the lights on, keep the electricity flowing? I mean, that's the problem. So even though it's at a lower rate, it's still going to be enough just to make you financially devastated. So you don't want to get garnished. Don't wait till that happens, because what happens is a lot of people then don't have the monies to hire me because it's too late. The IRS has got a hold of everything.
You know, here's a question, Lance, that we've gotten a lot of people writing us. They want to know, can you explain the taxes on Social Security now? Does everyone on Social Security qualify for not paying taxes on Social Security?
You know, I don't think I can answer. I could have my accountants or even one of my attorneys who did a lot of tax work, but the last I knew that you were going to get taxed on your Social Security if you made over a certain level. In addition, I don't know if it's 23,000 or what that number is exactly, but if there's been any further changes, I'm not really aware of that at this point.
So not everybody qualifies. It's based on your income.
Right. I mean, I'm still working. I make good income and I get taxed on my, I send half my Social Security checks back to help pay my estimated tax payments for the year, Steve. So, yeah, I mean, if you're still working and all that, you're not going to get those breaks.
Well, I got to tell you, I love doing your show. We do 3 shows a month. The first Monday is our national show, and a week from Friday, we will be doing our Tennessee, Missouri show. Lance, it's amazing where this show has gone. Now, there's a lot of people who are looking at your phone number right now who are watching on YouTube, but for those who are listening on radio, how do they reach you?
Go to lancedrurylaw.com. All of the telephone numbers are there. You can even reach me through the website. So, you know, there's all kinds of good information on that website. You'll see testimonials. You see the books that I've co-authored, the speeches I've given, the award I won from the American Society of Tax Problem Solvers 10 years ago this summer. Time flies, Steve. And so, yeah, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep helping people out. That's what we're here for. We're the liberation architects. We're here to save you from the clutches of Uncle Sam.
And one more thing, don't try to do this yourself. Hire attorney Lance Drury. Hey, Lance, we'll see you pretty soon for your Missouri, Tennessee show.
I'm looking forward to it, Steve.
Thanks, my friend. That's attorney Lance Drury. Hey, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts. See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.